Today is Vesak, the full moon of the month of Visakha. The day the Buddha was born, died, and was enlightened. So, first order of business. Usually, what we've been doing on these days is that I tell a story, and I'll tell a relatively short one because we also said that we're going to pass the baton today and do it as a kind of a Thai tradition. Everybody can give a short talk if they want. Nobody's obliged to, but if you want to say a few words, we'll make that opportunity for you. I guess it should also be optional if you want to talk and be recorded or not. So I'll tell the story from the Dhammapada commentary of Chula Sumano. This is a kind of charming story. It's about a young novice who proves himself and overcomes obstacles, and it's kind of the ancient version of the trope of the triumph of the nerd. The story was that there was a pious layman who had two sons, Maha Sumano and Chula Sumano. Maha and Chula means big and little. And before the rains retreat, he offered the meal to the Venerable Anuruddha, who is one of the important Arahant disciples of the Buddha. He's the bhikkhu who was most renowned for the power of the divine eye, meaning he could see into other realms and he could see at a distance, and he had, great foreknowledge, and his perception was developed to a supernormal degree. And Anuruddha, with his psychic intuition, he knew that of the two sons, the young one, Chula Sumano, had great potential. And after the meal, the father said, to the monk, he said, "Venerable sir, now you're going to enter the rains retreat. Is there any requisites I can offer you? Can I offer you robe cloth or a new bowl or some oil or anything you require? Just ask." And he says, "I don't need any of that stuff, but I'm in much need of an attendant. I would like if one of your sons could be a novice and be my attendant for the rains retreat." And the father said, "Yes, I'm sure my elder son would be happy to do it." And he says, "No, actually, I was thinking of this one, Chula Sumano." So Chula Sumano, being a dutiful son, he goes along with Anuruddha, and they go back to the monastery. And he was so gifted and had such high potential that he attained arahantship at the age of 7, sitting in the hall getting his head shaved before the ordination. He attained to arahantship. And he's one of a very few. I think there was, no, I can't remember, but I think there was 2 or 3 novices who had similar experience as young boys. So he joined Anuruddha's monastery for the rains retreat. And he was the smallest of the novices, and the bigger boys would tease him and pick on him and pull his ears and rub his head and call him silly names and just laugh at him. And he was so well behaved. He didn't say anything. He just sort of went along and made no trouble. But Anuruddha, of course, knew this was going on. He thought this is very inappropriate. They don't know that this boy is actually an arahant, and he's very spiritually gifted. I'll have to make some kind of a demonstration. So one day he announces that he has indigestion. He said, Anuruddha, he says, I have indigestion, I have a bellyache, and I need some special medicine to cure it. So all the novices wanting to please the master, they all say, "Well, where can we get it for you, sir?" And he says, "I need a jug full of water from Lake Anotata." And that stopped them all dead, gobsmacked. Lake Anotata is a wondrous lake high up in the Himavant, thousands of yojanas from central India, way up in the mountains of the far north. It's the source of all the great rivers of the world. And the water is extremely pure and has healing qualities. Buddhas and Pacceka Buddhas will go there to get water for rinsing their mouth after the meal. And the rivers that emerge from Lake Anotata, there are 4 rivers that flow from Lake Anotata, and they flow around the lake in a spiral pattern, and they all go to the sea. And the way they do this is that they cross each other by either tunneling under the ground or leaping up into the air. And the one river that emerges to the south and flows through lower Jambudvipa, where ordinary humans live, is the Ganges, or the Ganga. And the portion of the Ganga River that leaps into the air can be seen on a clear night from the earth, and we call it the Milky Way. The ancient Indians called it the Akasa Ganga, the sky Ganges. So this young novice, Chilasumino, he waited to see if anyone else wants to do it first, and of course no one can do it. It's impossible, especially for a young boy, to get thousands of miles through the mountains to Lake Anotata. And then when no one else speaks up, he says, "Venerable Sir, I will do it for you." And Aruda gives him a golden pot to get the water in. And he goes out into the monastery yard with the golden pot and rises up into the air and flies off to the north, much to the bewilderment and wonderment of all the other boys. And he flies all the way up to Lake Anotata. And when he gets there, the Naga king Panaka had occupied the lake and was sporting in the water with his Naga maidens, having a party. And the boy flew overhead, and this enraged the Naga king. And he said, "Who are these shaveling monks that come flying overhead, dribbling the dust of their feet on us? I won't tolerate this." And he rears up out of the water and belches fire and roars. And he says, "What are you doing here, you impudent young thing?" And Chilasumino says, "Sir, I mean you no harm. I have merely come for some Lake Anotata water from my master." And the Naga king says, "You'll get no water here. Go get water from the Ganges, where you belong. Don't come up here and take our water." And he roars again and belches fire, and Chilasumino's hanging in the air with this golden pot, and he says, "Sir Naga, my master told me to get some water, and I intend to do it." And the Naga says, "Take the water if you can, then it's yours." So then the Naga spreads out his hood, he's got a hood like a cobra. He's in a snake form, and he spreads it out until it's so huge it covers the whole 100 yojana circumference of the lake, like the lid of a pot. The whole lake is now covered by the Naga's hood. So the boy says, I'm going to have to make a display of psychic power in order to get this water. And I think it would be a good opportunity to make a demonstration of the power of the Buddhas and the Buddha's disciples. So in a flash of an instant, with his psychic power, he goes to all the various heaven realms and tells the deities there's going to be a battle between the novice Chulasumano, disciple of the Buddha, and the great Naga king Panaka. So the devas come streaming in from all the sensual heavens and from the Brahma worlds, and they fill the sky in all directions like dust over Lake Anotata. The sky is filled with onlooking devas. And Chulasumano says to the Naga once again, he says, will you give me water, sir? And the Naga says, you can have the water if you can take it. So the boy, the novice, he transforms himself into the form of a Brahma god, 100 yojanas tall, magnificently arrayed. And he stomps with his foot on the hood of the Naga. And water comes streaming out the side like a stream of urine. And he catches it in his golden pot and starts flying back to Anuruddha's hermitage. Now the Nag is really mad. He's been bested by this young upstart, but he's been humiliated in front of all the devas of all these realms. And Nagas are very proud, and this is like a very big humiliation to him. So he goes flying after the boy, but he can't catch him. And the novice arrives first at the hermitage and offers the pot of water to Anuruddha. The Naga comes in a few minutes later, and he tells Anuruddha, this boy is a thief. He took the water unbidden. And Chulasumano said, that's not true. This Naga told me I could have the water if I could take it. And I did. Narahant would not steal or would not lie. Was very careful to get that conditional permission from the Naga. So in the end, the Naga has to humble himself and agree that the water was rightfully taken. And he swears himself to be henceforth to be a law-abiding disciple of the Buddha. And then he goes back to his Naga realm. And Chulasumano thereafter was treated with great honor and respect wherever he went. So that's the story of little Chulasumano. So, would anybody like to go next? Abasaro?
I think, and something that I've been learning very slowly, that actually all the precepts are very important. And because they're how you act according to each one, it's a reflection of your heart. And even the action of like right speech. It's interesting because all the other precepts are like physical, tangible things. You can see them, they're actions. You steal something, we're deliberating over a physical object. But right speech is not a physical thing. And so maybe we can think that our words have no impact, but they do. And so yeah, do not be deceived by even the invisible actions.
Anybody else like to give it a go?
I'll say something.
Okay. Do you want to record it?
Oh, I don't know if it's worth recording. So I've been out at Arrow River since the beginning of, well, I guess maybe really the end of April this time. And when I came out, the river was really just at the point of breaking up. So it was, whenever you're out at Arrow River, the river is a big feature. It's the background noise to everything you do. And at the end of April, the river is boiling and rushing, and it's very powerful and noisy. And then, of course, as the spring has gone on and the melts happened, the river has kind of changed in its tone, but it's still the background noise to everything we do. And you know that I have a music show and I do a theme show, and very often I can do a theme on rivers or water. There are a lot of songs about rivers. So the image of the river and the sound of the river is something that I think is so integral to the way we understand the world. It's a river, but it means more than a river. And Ajahn Chah talked about still flowing water, where the water on top of the river appears to be still, but there's a current underneath that's going. And as practitioners, we talk about, glimpsing the far shore. And whenever I hear that term, I don't think of a lake. I always think of a river. And that, you come to the edge of the river and you can, you can follow the precepts, and, you can read and study and listen to Dhamma talks. But when you start on your journey, if you're lucky enough to glimpse the far shore, when you start on your journey, you can get so far with study. But when you're in the middle and the water's changed and what you thought was in the middle is no longer there, it's really faith that helps you keep going to the other side. So I've had a lot of time to think about the river. In fact, it was a real object of meditation for a lot of the morning pujas. And the river is really, at Arrow River, it's a big part of our lives. And in the practice of Buddhism, a river is it's a constant image that we can bring up. The Buddha talks about the river, and Ajahn Chah talks about still flowing water. And we have a choice to, there's that expression, you go with the flow, but I've always liked to flow with the go. Going with the flow means you're just getting swept along, but flowing with the go means you understand the energy that's happening. And rather than resisting it, you're allowing that faith to carry you down the river, and you hope across to the far shore.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to talk about a biggest takeaway for me when I came to Arrow River. Biggest lesson or understanding of a lesson was of impermanence. Was that everything at some point comes to an end. It's impermanent. And for me, it was I was suffering from depression, and with the understanding of the impermanence, I eventually was able to recognize a depressive episode sometimes after I was already in it, and it was like, okay, well, this will pass, it's impermanent. And yes, it became impermanent. And then it was just like I would feel the depressive episode come, and I go, okay, well, even the feeling of the depressive episode is impermanent, and it would be impermanent, would not even manifest. And that helped me break through depressive cycle and eventually get off medications and be able to really get into other lessons and more involved in the teachings through visiting Arrow River and listening to the talks by Ajahn and Punnadhammo. Thank you. Phil, are you going to? Okay.
She could do it.